Arrow decided, of course, to move a second film into production simply because the first film was a massive commercial success. They didn't care about the critics, they can live with that. But when your movie makes hundreds of thousands of pounds in your home territory, you think, well, hang on a minute, we're onto a successful formula here. Let's do another one. They had the option, of course, so they moved straight into production number 2, Daleks Invasion Earth. Amicus didn't want to tamper with the formula, so they hired the same director, the same creative team. I think the only difference were a couple of cast members. Roy Castle and Jenny Linden weren't available, so Bernard Cribbins came in. And, it was pretty much, let's make it the same schedule, the same time frame, same formula, let's get it out there and capitalise on this winning formula. Shooting any movie in London is challenging nowadays, but back then, of course, there wasn't the support of the police and the various councils, so they had to shoot a lot on Sunday mornings, and it was very much under stealth, let's keep it quiet, let's not let people know what we're doing around here. But on the second film, Peter Cushing fell ill for a while, and they had to reschedule some of his scenes, and in fact they rewrote the script to write him out of a few scenes. So he was slightly underused, and I think scheduling problems along with shooting in London, it led to an overrun, it went over budget slightly, and so it wasn't a particularly happy experience because the money men were breathing down the necks of the filmmakers. So I think, although shooting in London got away from that claustrophobic feel of shooting in a studio at Shepperton, it brought added problems. There was a deal with Sugar Puffs, the cereal, in this movie, and I'm not quite clear who approached who first, but obviously Sugar Puffs were a major cereal who wanted to get onto more children's breakfast dining tables. And here was a way of maybe making it happen with this wonderfully popular Doctor Who series. So they got together and had a discussion and said, well, look, if we put some money into the film, we want to be sort of involved in product placement, the first product placement, I think, at the time. What can you do for us? So Amicus said, well, we got some London street scenes. We could have some billboards with Sugar Puffs on, and we could have, a couple of mentions of Sugar Puffs, maybe Sugar Puffs sitting on a kitchen table. So they said, right, we're in. We'll put some money into the film. Shake hands, off we go. And I think that was really the first time product placement was used to raise production finance in a movie. Unfortunately, the success of Daleks Invasion Earth wasn't a patch on the first film because in America it failed to get much distribution. And, the advertising budget was minimal in America, so the awareness was minimal. And it didn't perform at the box office there. Over here, the critics impacted on the box office. And people were thinking, well, if the critics are saying it's so awful, should we go and see this movie? So it didn't perform as well, and the budget was slightly higher than the first film, so pound for pound it didn't return as much. The press reaction universally was absolutely vitriolic. It was awful. And in fact, if I'm allowed to quote from my notes, the Times said, the filming of all this is technically elementary. The cast, headed by the long-suffering, much ill-used Peter Cushing, seem able, unsurprisingly, to drum up no conviction whatever in anything they're called to do. Grown-ups may enjoy it, but most children will have more sense. That was one of the favourable reviews. So, critically, it was mauled. Arrow had the option for a third movie under the Terry Nation deal, and their backers, British Lion at the time, said, well, we're not keen on doing a third film. The last one didn't perform very well. Go off and make a couple of horror movies, make us some money. And I think it was literally, they bowed to commercial pressure. That time wasn't right to make a third Doctor Who film. They did, I think, at one point in the late 60s, early 70s, talk about resurrecting it, and Milton Subotsky was involved in writing a screenplay, I believe. But it just didn't come together. I think at that time the TV series had moved forward, and audiences had changed too, so it wasn't right for that time.